My sibling informed me, "If you refuse to look after 4 children, don't even consider coming." Our mother and father supported her immediately. So, I replied via text, "All right. In that case, my $15,000 won't be making an appearance for Christmas either." I terminated all their arrangements. In a matter of hours, my phone was inundated. It happened over a meal at my parents' home when my sister delivered the statement that seared into my mind. If I wasn't willing to babysit the 4 children, then I shouldn't trouble myself to attend the Christmas gathering. She announced it as if proposing a celebratory drink. The whole table laughed. My father gave a chuckle as though it were a shared gag. My mother didn't even glance up from her food. It wasn't a request. It was a decree, issued nonchalantly in front of the entire family as if it were trivial news. I remained motionless, swallowing dry turkey in fury. There was no pause in the conversation. No one inquired about my feelings. No one batted an eye. It was simply accepted that, naturally, I would remain behind to supervise 4 children under 10 while the rest of them went to the mountains to relax in a hot tub. The most galling part was that I had financed the entire excursion. Every single aspect, the upscale lodge, the premium airline seats, the SUV hire, the ski passes, the spa bookings, the high-end food delivery, was paid for by me. $15,000. My sister had asserted that she and her spouse had a tough financial year. My brother and his new girlfriend had just cohabitated and didn't wish to begin their life together in the red. And my parents, as always, pretended funds were scarce, despite having recently renovated their kitchen for a second time. I earn a comfortable living. I'm single, with no children. So, annually, I am manipulated into covering the cost of the major family holiday because, well, I'm supposedly so benevolent, and it signifies so much to everyone. That same phrase, every year. And I always succumb. But this was an unprecedented level of nerve. They expected me to arrive, pay for everything, and then be left behind with 4 noisy children while they enjoyed a vacation funded by my money. For Christmas, I wasn't even invited to join the skiing, the meals, or the cabin, just the childcare. As if I were paid staff. I didn't utter a word during the meal. I've been conditioned since I was young not to cause disturbances. I just offered a strained smile, assisted with cleaning up, embraced everyone farewell, and drove home. But something inside me fractured on the return journey. This was distinct. This wasn't a simple miscommunication or an oversight. This was premeditated. This was coordinated. And no one, not for a single instant, considered if I was agreeable to it. At 1 a.m, I phoned my aunt. She's the sole relative who perceives situations accurately, who genuinely pays attention when I speak. She didn't even require the complete context. "They don't merit you," she stated. "And they absolutely don't merit your money." So, I opened the family group chat, scrolled past all the self-satisfied planning messages, the itinerary links my mother had shared with such excitement, and I typed, "All right. Then my $15,000 won't be attending Christmas either." Then I contacted the travel agent and began dismantling everything. Lodge, canceled. Flights, canceled. Ski passes, car hire, groceries, all gone, refunded, erased. I had charged everything to my account because it was more convenient. More convenient for them, it turned out. I leaned back and waited. It didn't take long. My sister called first, twice. Then she texted, "What on earth is happening?" Then my mother, "You can't be serious." Then my brother, "You're destroying Christmas for everyone." No one asked for my reasons. No one said they were sorry. They were just frantic that their complimentary holiday was disintegrating. But I felt tranquil for the first time in years. This time, they had targeted the incorrect sister. By the following morning, I had more than a dozen unanswered calls. 3 from my mother, 2 from my father, 4 from my sister, a couple from my brother. Even my sister's husband called, which he never does unless it's about a car issue or an internet problem. The family group chat was in an uproar. My mother wrote, "This is not the moment for this sort of theatrics. We can discuss this." My sister, "What is your issue? You're wrecking everything. You genuinely require assistance." My father, "What you did was small-minded and deeply painful. You are more mature than this." My brother remained quiet, but his girlfriend contributed for the first time with, "Wow, all over some babysitting." She was perilously close to being blocked. Not one individual inquired why I was distressed. No one recognized that what my sister had said was entirely inappropriate. All they cared about was the trip the plans, the convenience I typically supplied without objection. I didn't reply to any of it. I just let the silence simmer. Then, around 2 in the afternoon, my mother attempted a remedy. She called again and stated they had found an answer. Translation: they had rebooked everything without my knowledge. A different, inferior cabin. Cheaper flights. Now an economy, not premium. No SUV rental. Reduced activities. Apparently, they all pooled some money to rescue the vacation. She mentioned they would still like me to join, just to assist a little with the children. I asked her, what part of I am not the nanny is unclear. She didn't comprehend. She stated I was being self-centered, that it was only for a few days, that I shouldn't penalize everyone over a single remark from my sister. I reminded her that I had paid for the previous 5 family holidays. She went silent, then stated she didn't want to quarrel. Later that evening, I received the official text. Since you obviously do not wish to participate in this Christmas, we've concluded it's likely best you remain home. We will speak in the new year. Love, Mom. That was all. No responsibility, no apology, just a quiet banishment. It stung more than I anticipated. Not because I desired to go, I didn't, but because of how swiftly they turned against me. The moment I ceased being beneficial, they severed ties. As if I held no value beyond what I provided for them. I gazed at that message for a long while. I considered responding. I considered unleashing years of accumulated bitterness, but I refrained. I just forwarded it to my aunt and wrote, "It seems I'm available for Christmas." She answered in 5 seconds. "Excellent. You're coming here and you won't be doing a single chore." Her home isn't luxurious. There's no snowmobile or hot tub or catered meal, but her Christmases are authentic. They're cozy. The food is handmade. The presents are considerate. People ask how you are and genuinely await your response. And no one abandons 4 children with you and labels it a custom. Meanwhile, the repercussions from my cancellation continued to escalate. Apparently, the cheaper cabin was significantly inferior. The rebooked flights involved 2 connections. They had to downgrade to a compact rental car, and my sister's husband refused to drive on slippery roads. The final insult was that the resort was over capacity and they lost their ski lesson reservations. I learned all of this through my cousin Jen. She remains impartial and dislikes conflict. By the 3rd day, my sister had a breakdown in the group chat, accusing everyone of being inept and unappreciative. My mother tried to mediate, and my father wondered if they should just cancel the entire trip. They didn't. They proceeded, resentful, anxious, and unhappy. But I wasn't present. I was sipping cider on my aunt's porch, watching her grandchildren decorate cookies, and recalling the sensation of peace. And I wasn't nearly finished. On Christmas Eve morning, I awoke to a text that struck like a brick through the glass. The children are wondering where Auntie Grace is. No salutation, no apology, no acknowledgement of the sheer gall it required to say what she had said at dinner a week prior. Just a guilt trip masked as worry. It was utterly predictable. My sister had always known precisely how to inflict pain while maintaining plausible deniability. The children, of course, that was her strategy. I didn't respond. I turned over, switched off my phone, and stared at the ceiling of my aunt's comfortable spare room. The sun wasn't fully up yet, but I could already detect the aroma of something cooking downstairs. The sound of her daughter getting her 2 young sons into clothes they resisted. And faintly, from somewhere, Mariah Carey was already playing. No strain, no friction, no need to tread carefully. Just people who genuinely enjoyed each other's company. My aunt's Christmases aren't extravagant. There's no perfectly curated tree, no designer gifts, no custom-printed matching pajamas. But there's warmth. There's serenity. There's space to exist. I entered the kitchen, and she handed me a plate with a cinnamon roll the size of my head, then said, "Your sister texted me last night, too, asking what time you were driving over." I stared. "What did you say?" She simply smiled. "I told her you were already home." That impacted me more deeply than I expected. Home. No one had ever referred to my whereabouts during the holidays that way. Typically, I was wherever I was needed. On a plane, on the road, in a borrowed bed with a baby monitor on the nightstand. But this year, I was precisely where I wished to be. No children to watch. No last-minute cooking duties assigned to me. No guilt trips disguised as family bonding. Meanwhile, the group chat had fallen silent. Not a single Merry Christmas from anyone. I was officially being ignored. And frankly, it was a liberation, until later that afternoon when my cousin Jen, The unofficial family informant called. "They're imploding," she said. "Your mother is livid. The cabin only has 2 bedrooms, and your sister's husband is sleeping in the car because the children won't stop crying. Your brother's girlfriend brought a vegan roast, and your mother said it smelled like a damp sock, and now she's locked herself in a bedroom. Your father tried to deep fry a turkey and almost ignited the deck." I had to mute the receiver to keep from laughing aloud. Jen continued. "And your sister? She hasn't spoken to anyone since they arrived. She keeps complaining about how you sabotaged the family and how everyone now views her as a villain." The irony was profound. After years of being treated as the auxiliary power supply for family events, I had finally shut down, and now they were sitting in the dark, accusing one another. And still, none of them contacted me to apologize. Not once. Instead, I received one final jewel from my sister that night. "I hope you're enjoying Christmas with your real family. You've made your point." It was so icy, so full of venom, I felt my jaw clench. That message was the most transparent confirmation of something I had sensed for years, but never wanted to acknowledge. She didn't love me. Not truly. Not in the way siblings should. She loved what I did for her. She loved that I made things easier. That I never protested. That I allowed her to feel more significant by being less so. And now that I had ceased, she despised me for it. I set the phone down and assisted my aunt's grandchildren set up for a board game marathon. We laughed, created chaos, and stayed up until midnight simply talking. And for once, I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything. In fact, I felt like I had finally stopped missing out on my own life. After the children were in bed, my aunt handed me a glass of wine and sat next to me on the sofa. She was quiet for a moment, just gazing at the fireplace. Then she said, "They are never going to change. Not unless someone forces them." I asked her what she meant. She looked at me and stated, "You've been shielding them from the repercussions of their actions your entire life. Let's observe how they manage with a dose of reality." I didn't request clarification. I didn't need to, because the expression in her eyes communicated that this wasn't concluded. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't frightened of losing them. On December 26th, I was still in my pajamas, seated at my aunt's kitchen island with a piece of pecan pie and no remorse, when she glanced up from her phone and said, "So, just a warning, your sister might contact you today." I was startled. "Why?" She smiled, that serene, almost perilous smile I'd seen only a handful of times before. "I mailed her something." I was stunned. "What did you mail her?" She sipped her coffee as if it were unimportant. "An envelope containing a spreadsheet and a letter." I set down the pie. "What kind of spreadsheet?" She stood, opened a drawer, and handed me a printed copy. It was methodical, color-coded, and dated back 5 years. Every item I had paid for: flights, rentals, groceries, event tickets. Even that Christmas 3 years prior when I covered their entire feast and the children's gifts because my sister claimed she was penniless and my parents were strapped after home maintenance. Total, $47,380. I just gaped at it. I hadn't even realized the sum was that substantial. "You kept track of all this?" I asked. She shrugged. "You forwarded me the receipts. I retained them because I suspected one day you would require the evidence documented. And since they refused to listen to you, I decided to deliver it in a manner they couldn't disregard." I wasn't sure whether to laugh, weep, or simply sit in admiration of this subtle act of retribution. But she wasn't finished. The letter simply clarified that you've been supporting them for years, and that perhaps this year it was time they learned to be self-reliant. "Oh, and I copied your mom, your dad, your brother, and Donna." "Donna?" I said, amazed. "That woman hasn't messaged me since 2016. She's always whispering in your mother's ear. I believe she should see where the money truly originated." It struck me then. My aunt hadn't merely defended me. She had initiated a full-scale campaign. A quiet, devastating revelation of truth wrapped in seasonal goodwill. My phone began vibrating before I finished the pie. A call from my sister. I declined it. Then a text. "Why would you do this to us?" To us? As if I had committed a theft. My brother added his opinion 20 minutes later. "You ambushed everyone. Couldn't you have spoken to us in private?" That made me chuckle. I had attempted to communicate for years, but they never heard a word unless it impacted them personally. Then came the silence. No communication from my sister. No apology. Not a word until the group chat finally alerted, and I almost dropped my phone. It wasn't from her. It was from her husband. I truly had no clue Grace paid for all of that. I believed your parents were covering the majority of it. I'm sorry. That is not acceptable. Complete radio silence from everyone else after that. And it didn't stop there. A cousin I seldom hear from sent me an Instagram message. She mentioned she had always observed how much I did and never understood why I was consistently the one handling everything. She said it all made sense now. Then Donna commented on an old family Christmas photo I had posted. Family is a privilege, not an entitlement. Some individuals forget that until it's too late. My mother saw it. She unfriended her within the hour. That's when I knew things were truly disintegrating on their end. And still, nothing from my sister until 11:13 p.m. I need to speak with you, please. Just that. No elaboration, no facade. I stared at it for 10 minutes before even showing my aunt. She wasn't shocked. You broke the system, she remarked. Now they're attempting to find the reset button. I didn't answer, but the next day, another message arrived. This one was longer and uncharacteristically disorganized. I was wrong. I said things I shouldn't have. I didn't mean to make you feel like that. I know I took advantage. I'm sorry. Please can we talk? Just us, no one else. I'm not asking for anything. I just want to talk. No punctuation. Just a flood of raw guilt, apprehension, perhaps even a semblance of sincerity. And I didn't know what astonished me more, that she had finally broken, or that for the first time in my life, I didn't feel diminished by her distress. I felt stable, and whatever occurred next, it would be on my conditions. I didn't reply to her message that night or the next morning. I read it repeatedly, the jumbled words, the lack of structure, the absence of justifications. It was the messy confession of someone unaccustomed to admitting fault. But I didn't desire another hollow apology. I wasn't interested in her regret merely because she had been exposed. I wanted her to comprehend, truly comprehend. So, I sent a single line. Meet me at Aunt Linda's tomorrow at noon. Only you. No children, no spectators. I didn't inform my aunt until the following morning, right after breakfast. She didn't seem surprised, just nodded and said, I'll take the children out. You'll have the entire house to yourself. At 12:03, I heard her car arrive. No one else in the passenger seat. No noise from the back. She had come alone. She entered without her typical vigor. No exaggerated smile, no artificial cheerfulness, no air of superiority. Just her, somewhat diminished, somewhat hesitant. She sat at the kitchen table, as if it were unfamiliar ground. I realize I'm the last person you wish to see, she began. But thank you for not disregarding me completely. I stayed silent. I let her talk. I was mistaken. All of it. What I said at dinner, how I said it, the manner I've treated you for years. I didn't even grasp the extent until I saw that spreadsheet. She exhaled deeply. I couldn't believe it. I thought perhaps you were overstating, or maybe Aunt Linda was mistaken. But I examined every entry. I cross-referenced with my own emails. You weren't exaggerating. She shook her head. It's appalling how we've exploited you. I exploited you. I viewed you as this safety net, the one who never complained, the one without children, the one who could always manage, and I became accustomed to that. I remained quiet. I needed to discern if this was merely guilt or if she had genuinely shifted perspective. She looked at me, truly looked. I've made you feel like you were merely ancillary staff for this family. And then I penalized you when you stopped performing like one. I didn't even contemplate what that did to you. Her voice wavered, but she didn't cry. She simply appeared ashamed. Then she reached into her bag. I spoke with Michael, she said. And Mom and Dad. I made them examine the numbers. I made them confront it. And I told them. She was never supposed to bear all of this. We were wrong to permit it. She handed me an envelope. Inside was a check. It wasn't for the full amount, not even close, but it was more than I had anticipated. She had begun reimbursing me of her own volition. I looked at her, and she nodded. It's not everything, but it's what we could gather quickly. I will contribute more. I don't expect you to pardon me immediately. I just needed you to know. I understand it now. All of it. It felt as though a fundamental foundation of the family had realigned. I didn't accept the check. Not yet. I let it rest on the table between us. Evidence of a breach in her defenses. You need to comprehend something, I stated. I'm not angry because you relied on me. I'm angry because no one ever asked if I was willing to be relied upon. It was never a choice. I was anticipated to provide, and when I ceased, I was punished. She nodded. I know. I felt at the instant you withdrew. And the truth is, I was terrified because I recognized how much we had constructed around your support. And without it, we collapsed. We sat in silence for a while. Not an uncomfortable silence, just the kind that occupies a space after something momentous has been expressed. Before she departed, she glanced back and said, "I miss you. Not the assistance, not the money, just you." That struck me more forcefully than the apology. 2 hours later, my phone buzzed again. "Your father and I would like to visit. Just a brief visit. No pressure." I showed the message to my aunt. She didn't appear shocked. Just said, "Good. Let them put in the effort now." And for once, I concurred. They arrived around noon. My parents, just the two of them. No grand entrance, no pan of baked goods, no overcompensating smiles. For a solid 5 minutes, they simply sat in their car, staring forward as if debating whether to enter. They finally approached the door together. My mother knocked. My father stood behind her, clasping his hands as if uncertain what to do with them. I opened the door, but didn't immediately invite them inside. I took a step back. They seemed different. Not necessarily older, but reduced, like people who had started to realize the base upon which they had built their family wasn't as sturdy as they had assumed. We sat at the kitchen table, the same one where my sister had apologized the day before. No one spoke for a considerable time. Then my father began. "Your sister told us what you expressed about how you've been supporting everyone." He made eye contact with me, then glanced away. That was a first. My mother's voice broke before she could complete her first sentence. "We didn't perceive it. And I don't mean we didn't trust you. I mean we never even bothered to look." I said nothing. I allowed the gravity of that to settle as it needed to. "We became complacent," my father added. "We began treating you as the remedy for every issue. Finances, organization, childcare, all of it. And when you stopped, we treated it as a betrayal. But it wasn't. You were merely establishing a boundary we should have recognized years ago." My mother nodded, her eyes red. I believed we were close. I genuinely did. But I think we were merely comfortable. That word resonated with me. Comfortable. They were comfortable while I was drained. Comfortable while I paid bills, shouldered emotional burdens, mediated every holiday crisis. Comfortable while I forfeited my own life, my own tranquility, attempting to maintain theirs. I should have expressed this sooner, I said. But every time I attempted, I received the same response. Don't create a scene. Don't ruin the vacation. Don't initiate conflict. So I stopped speaking up. My father looked down, nodding slowly. My mother wiped her face. "I understand you don't owe us anything," she said. "But I need you to know this. You were never an afterthought. You were the adhesive, and we misused that." It required all my strength not to let that sentence shatter me completely. She retrieved an envelope from her bag and placed it before me. "Your sister provided us with the spreadsheet. We reviewed every line. This isn't the entire sum, but it's a beginning. We intend to rectify this." The envelope felt weighty. I didn't open it. "I'm not seeking retaliation," I stated. "I'm seeking transformation." "You have it," my father said. And for the first time, I believed him. We sat in silence after that. No one trying to mend the moment. No artificial laughter. Just silence. Honest silence. Before they left, my mother stood and said, "We would like to see you for New Year's. Just dinner. Just you. No plans. No pressure. You don't need to decide now." Then they walked out, and I closed the door behind them. Not angry, not relieved, just steady. That night, my aunt and I made grilled cheese sandwiches and watched a silly movie from the 90s. Midway through, she handed me a glass of wine and said, "You know, I've been waiting for years for someone to expose the reality of that family dynamic." I laughed. "You could have done it." She raised an eyebrow. "I could have, but it was always going to carry more weight coming from you." She was correct. I had spent so long believing that remaining silent constituted strength, but it didn't. Speaking up did. Refusing did. Releasing the fear of being the outcast, the problematic one, the overly sensitive one. That was what ultimately granted me peace. The next morning, I awoke to a picture from my sister. Her 4 children were holding a large piece of construction paper that read, "We miss you, Annie Grace. Come play soon." No manipulation, no conditions, just children's handwriting and lopsided hearts. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel wanted for my utility. I felt wanted for myself. This Christmas didn't arrive with physical presents. It arrived with understanding, with boundaries drawn, with foundations reconstructed more solidly, and with a type of honesty that finally had room to exist. It wasn't flawless. It was superior,